is what other animals with shells use too. Other things like oysters and clams have that same hard material, and that's what protects them. So it keeps them glued together too. And that's also what allows these ecosystems, these coral reefs, to get so big and become amazing homes for so many other animals. Because a coral polyp doesn't live forever, but a coral colony can grow over time. As the individual polyps die, new coral polyps will grow on top of those skeletons and create these amazing places. What's maybe one of the biggest coral reefs, Andy?
Well, one of the longest ones is called the Great Barrier Reef off of Australia. It's so long you can actually see it from outer space.
So that's taken those corals a really long time to create, but good thing they've done that because they've created homes for so many other animals. All of the little nooks and crannies in a coral colony are perfect hiding places, places to lay eggs and find food for, we estimate, about 25% of all life in the ocean. 1 out of every 4 things, plants and animals alike, that lives in the ocean will have their home on a coral reef at some point in their life. So they're pretty important. So it sounds like maybe there's a lot of coral reefs. They're probably like covering the ocean floor, right, Andy?
No, actually, coral reefs only cover less than 1/10 of the entire ocean floor. If you took all the coral reefs in the world and put them together, they've combined to be smaller than the state of Texas.
Ooh, so Texas is a big state, but if you think about how big the world is and how big the ocean is, that's really, really small. So these small places are extremely important for the health of the entire oceans, and we're part of that food chain too, right? Does anybody like eating seafood? Or maybe you even like to go whale watching, or you like to go to the beach. We all benefit from having healthy oceans, so we all depend on these amazing places. But let's think back to this exhibit, Andy. This is amazing. It must be really difficult to take care of, right?
It actually is. We do a lot and spend a lot of money to take care of this. If you walk up on the first floor, you'll see all the bright sun lamps that we have. We have 40 lamps. They're 1,000 watts each, and they provide the artificial sunlight that these coral need. In addition, we have a team of technicians who monitor this water by computer 24 hours a day, and they check the temperature, salinity, oxygen content, and they also check the chemistry of the water. And one of the important things that they check is something called pH.
Does anybody remember pH from high school chemistry class? So it's pretty important. If you learned about it in high school chemistry, here's a place you can apply it. So pH is a measure of the acidity or the alkalinity of a liquid. And the optimal pH for the ocean is a little bit on the basic side. So a little bit on the 6 to 7 range, if that's ringing any bells for anybody. And normally, that's where it is. And that is the optimal pH for these animals to build their skeletons. It's a complex chemical reaction that they need to be able to get the calcium to make their skeletons. And they've been doing this pretty well for a really long time. But the world is changing a lot these days, and what's changing along with it are the oceans and the chemistry of the oceans. Has anybody heard of carbon dioxide before? CO2. Yeah, it's doing a lot of things in our world these days, and one of the things it's doing is changing the ocean chemistry. So carbon dioxide is produced when we burn fossil fuels. That's coal, oil, and gasoline. That creates carbon dioxide, which gets up into our atmosphere, but a lot of it actually gets absorbed into the ocean, too. And then what happens once it's in the ocean?
Well, when the ocean absorbs carbon, it forms a chemical called carbonic acid. And over time, that makes the ocean water slightly acidic. And this is bad for the coral, because when the ocean water becomes acidic, the coral's skeleton becomes soft, and eventually they get sick and they die.
So all of the skeletons of these corals and all the animals that depend on that nice solid structure are getting thinner and a little bit weaker. So that's a big problem for basically everything that lives in the ocean and everything connected to that food chain, which comes right back to us. But the cool thing is that we know how to solve these problems, and we're working on them every single day. So what we need to do is just make less of that carbon dioxide. And the way that you can do that is by burning less fossil fuels. And our transportation runs on fossil fuels, right? You put gasoline in your car, so if we all just drive a little bit less, we'll be making less carbon dioxide and keeping our oceans from becoming too acidic. That's all it is. So what ways do you like to drive less? What do you do instead of driving, Andy?
Well, so if you instead of driving your car, if you walk, ride a bicycle, or take public transportation, all of those things help just a little bit to reduce the amount of carbon we burn, and that helps the coral reefs.
Right, and we all work on this together. You support your friends and family and your neighbors who are doing these things. We will have a really positive impact on our oceans and our coral reefs, because all of our atmosphere is connected, all of our oceans are connected. So no matter how far away from a coral reef you might be, you still are able to have a positive impact on these places. That's pretty cool. These places absolutely have positive impacts on us. Okay, the fish are queuing to the other side of the exhibit, which tells me it's about time for us to take questions. You ready for some questions, Andy?
Absolutely. Love
All
questions.
right. Anybody want to ask Andy anything? He knows some things about stuff. If you're wondering anything about this exhibit, how he got to be here, it's a pretty cool place to be. Anything at all? Let's see. While you think of some, I will ask Andy a question. What's your favorite fish?
One of my favorite fish, all these little orange and purple fish over here, those are called anthias. And not only are they really beautiful colors, but one of the most interesting things about anthias is that when they are born, they are all born as females. There are no males. And all of these female fish live together in what's called a harem. And the largest female actually goes through a natural chemical process. Over a period of a few weeks, she turns into a male, and she becomes the leader of the harem. And if someday that male dies and gets old, the next biggest female will become the male, and she takes over the harem.
That's pretty interesting. It's actually really similar in clownfish, but the other way around. So if Finding Nemo was true to biology, it would have been a really different movie. But the anthias are hanging out over here if you want to get a look at them after the program. You can try to find the head male, because he's a little bit bigger, and he has a square purple spot on his side. Awesome. Anybody have a chance to think of a question? Okay, if you think of anything. Sorry, you have a question? Oh, are you going to feed the fish from inside the water?
No, actually, Diver Michael is going to be up on the catwalk, and when we give him the signal, he's going to feed them.
Should we do that? Should we give Michael the signal? Okay, we're all very ready. So the signal is we count down from 5 to 0. We can all do that, right? Okay, you ready, Andy?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Feed those fish. Woo. This is truly a feeding frenzy. Wow. Must be something really delicious on the menu.
Yeah, well, delicious for the fish. Today they're getting 3 things. They're going to be getting dried protein pellets, which is actually fish meal. They're going to get dried algae flakes, which is like salad to a fish. And they're also going to get dried seaweed, which is like the nori that we use to make sushi.
Okay, so that's interesting. Seems like the big fish are really into those 3 menu items, but the little fish, like the anthias down here, haven't quite figured out yet that there's food. So are they going to eat?
Yep. So it turns out that the big fish, they kind of rush in there and try to gobble everything up. Fortunately, the big fish are slops. They chew the food so fast that half the food falls out the side of their mouth, and it sinks down through the water column. And the little fish are pretty smart. They figured out that if they just hold back a few feet and wait their turn, they can eat all those little chunks of food, and in the end, everybody gets fed.
Yeah, I can see that happening right now. This is actually the best time to be observant in this exhibit, because some of the shy fish are coming out now to get the food before they go back into the safety of the coral. So I'm going to get out of your way now so you can have that observational moment. But thank you all so much for joining us here today. Let's give Andy a round of applause.
Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day at the Academy of Sciences.
And if you want to get a cool picture, you can get either